Favourite speaker?
I think we both agree, don't we? It's Catherine Spencer.
My favourite speaker was Catherine. I would think Catherine Spencer in particular.
Catherine Spencer. I felt like she was very interactive with the audience. I felt the fact that rugby was her hobby and she was working alongside her hobby, but you know, that was her main thing. That was the thing that made her big, and it was a hobby. She wasn't getting paid for it. That was absolutely amazing. And then she used that to then create her own business. I just thought, for me, she was the most inspirational person. So she was my favourite.
And we're lucky enough to have with us today 63 caps she's won for her country. May I ask you all to welcome Catherine Spencer to tell us what she's doing now.
Thank you very much. Hopefully that's woken up everyone after lunch there. It's nice to be able to stand on stage and not wear rugby kit and have my hair everywhere and look particularly scruffy. I always think maybe I should have played a more photogenic sport, but rugby was a sport for me, so there you go. So where did I start, really? Because I know I don't look over 21, but I started playing rugby back in the 80s, in the mid-80s. I played mini rugby. I've got two, and so off I trotted on a Sunday morning, played in this team, no other girls playing, not many girls playing in Kent, not many girls playing in the country at that point, but I absolutely loved it. I've only got 10 minutes, so I won't tell you about all the awards I won because we wouldn't have enough time, but there's one particular award that I won that I am really, really proud of, and I still have it now, taped up with sellotape to keep it together. And it was Catherine Spencer, age 11, most improved rugby player, Folkestone Mini Rugby Club. Wow. And my coach, a guy called Mike O'Sullivan, who I'm still in contact with now, really had to fought my corner for that, fight my corner, because the people at the club, they're like, what's the point? What is the point of giving that award to a girl? And I know, thanks for those sound effects. But they did, and I got that award, and it just gave me that extra bit of boost, that extra bit of confidence that I needed. They're a really supportive club now, and my England shirt is up on the wall at Folkestone Rugby Club. But back then, I had no idea that an England team for women existed. It wasn't on the television much, it wasn't really in the news. I had no idea it existed. And because of that, I kind of describe my rugby career, if you like, as a series of blind summits. Now, you all look like you go mountaineering on a regular basis, so you'll understand what I'm talking about. You know, you're walking up a mountain, and you think, oh, there's the top. Brilliant. Oh, it's not the top. You thought you got to the top. There's another summit. Okay, I can get there, I can get there. You get to the top. Oh, it's not the top. And there's another one, and another one. My rugby career was like that. So my first little summit was playing rugby. When I was 11, I had to stop playing rugby. Rugby is a contact sport, as you saw on the telly. Girls and boys couldn't play in the same team at that age. When I go to schools and talk to kids, I always say, the official reason is that girls are better than boys, and we show them up if we carried on playing in the same team. Boys are okay at rugby as well, but girls are good. Anyway, so I had to stop playing rugby, but my local club, Folkestone, started a women's team when I was 14, and there were no age regulations, so I played women's rugby from the age of 14, played my last game of rugby last August. And that was kind of my next step, playing club rugby, and I absolutely loved it, loved playing for my club, Folkestone. And then one evening I was at home with my parents, and the phone rang. One of the dialy phones, no mobile around at that point. We were sat in the living room watching TV with just 4 channels on it. How crazy is that? Anyway, that's by the by. My coach phoned me up, and he's like, Catherine, I want you to go to Kent trials. I went to Kent trials, and I got in, and I played rugby for my county. I thought that was it. I thought that was my Everest. And I was really proud of playing for my county. But when I was there, I was like, oh, there's regional rugby. And I thought, I can be there. You know, watching the people that were there, watching the game, I can do that. By seeing it, I thought, I can do that. So I played regional rugby. I went to university, and we had a pretty good women's rugby team. Most universities, even back then, this was late 90s now, had a women's rugby team. I went to Cardiff University, best university in the world. Anyone else went to Cardiff? Brilliant university. Yes. Brilliant university. I did do a degree, but I played a lot of rugby there as well, and absolutely loved it. The first time I played at Twickenham, was with my university team. And running out of the tunnel onto the hallowed turf. It was incredible, in front of about 6 people watching because it was a women's game. But it was just this amazing moment, and little did I know I'd be back a few times playing there again. That was like another step on my trek up my mountain. I went off travelling for a year, and I didn't play rugby in that time. But it was during that year I thought, do you know what? I think I can get to that next step. I'd started to hear and see about this England women's rugby team. You know, I played club, I played county, played regional, did pretty well at university rugby. I think I can get just to the next level. Came back from travelling. I didn't do a lot of sport or fitness, and I have to admit I drank a bit too much alcohol and ate a few too many pies on my year away. However, I came back via India and lost quite a lot of weight, so I looked all right when I turned up at trials, and I just scraped through, and I got into these summer training days. And I went there, but I was really scared. I was just Catherine from Folkestone. You know, what was I doing there with all these kind of England-type players? You know, we've all heard of imposter syndrome, haven't we? And kind of feeling like a fraud. That's a bit what I felt like. But something kept me going. Something was like, yes, Catherine, you can do this. And I'll whiz on a little bit more because I'm conscious of the time. And, you know, I kept in the setup, I kept training hard. And in 2004, I got my first England cap. And we were playing in the Six Nations. Some of you will have heard of it. It's a tournament that's happening at the moment. And we were playing Wales. Have we got any Welsh people in here? There's always some, isn't there, honestly? So we were playing Wales in the Six Nations, and I was on the subs bench, been called up to England. The player in my position, Claire Frost, had got injured. Someone's misfortune is someone else's opportunity, and that certainly was my opportunity. But I was on the subs bench, and we played our first half, and sorry Welshies, we were winning by quite a lot. That's what we used to do against Wales, and quite regularly. And we were winning quite well, and it got to half-time, and I was enjoying watching this game of rugby. My parents were in the stands, and then about 20 minutes into the second half, my name was called, and I'll never ever forget it. And I was stood at the side of the pitch, had my white England shorts, my white England shirt with a red rose on my chest, and I was called onto the pitch. And I ran onto the pitch, and over in my head was going, you're representing your country. You're playing rugby for England. And it was like the world had gone into slow motion. Probably looked like it, I'm not a very fast runner, but the world had gone into slow motion. I just over and over in my head, you're playing rugby for your country. You're representing England. And I was incredible. I played the game, and I scored a little sneaky try, just a bit like, you know, how you score a goal. And I was on such a high. And I went home. I was living back at my parents'. I have moved out now, age 38, which is good. I was living back at my parents', and the next day, me and my dad went round to all my coaches from Folkestone, from Minis, from club to county, and gave them a gift because it was for them. I wouldn't have got to play for England if it wasn't for them. I wouldn't have moved up yet to another blind summit if it wasn't for all these people, the people in my team, if you like. And also it gave my dad an excuse to just tell even more people about what his little baby girl had done. He came to watch the video, so the video you watched there was my 50th cap for England, and a really proud moment for me, but also for the team because of the significance of the game. And it was televised live, and we had record-breaking crowd at that time coming to watch a women's game. And I was awarded Player of the Match. And my dad said afterwards, he was stood near these couple of guys who just stood having a drink at the bar, and they said, yeah, that England captain's done all right, hasn't she? You know, like, captain, only try of the game, 50th cap, beating New Zealand, player of the game. And my dad said he didn't say anything. He just stood there with a smile on his face, and yeah, that's my baby cow. And proud parents. And I'll tell them, I'll tell my dad later he got a clap, he'll be pleased with that. And anyway, so I carried on playing rugby for another couple of years, and then we got to the World Cup in 2010. We played in 2006, we lost to New Zealand in the World Cup final. In 2010 was the next World Cup, and I was captain. I was England captain. The World Cup was on home soil. Everything we were doing for 4 years, absolutely everything. Getting up on a really cold, freezing morning at 6 o'clock in the morning to go and sprint up and down a rugby pitch, to get up 6 o'clock the next day to go and do strength training before going to work. I was not paid to play rugby for England, unlike my male counterparts. I did it because I wanted to play rugby for England and be the best person in my position. And I did it because we wanted to win a World Cup. So in 2010, got to the World Cup final against New Zealand. And we lost. We lost by 3 points. Absolutely gutted. I'll never, ever get over it. I'm okay on a daily basis now, it's okay. It's fine. Really, really tough. Everything we were doing and building was about winning that World Cup final, and we lost. And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And then after the World Cup final, I just wanted to find my mum. I just wanted to have a cup of tea and a hug, and I had to face this press conference. For years, we'd been building our profile, slowly but surely building the profile of women's sport, of women's rugby. At that point, I wish we hadn't. I didn't want these cameras and journalists facing me, but we came out of that really well. And one of the big reasons we did come out of that so well as ambassadors of our sport, if you like, ambassadors of women's sport, of women's rugby, because we were ordinary people doing something quite extraordinary. And people got behind us because of that reason. We were mums, we were sisters, we were girlfriends, we were wives, we were nurses, we were vets. That's pretty extraordinary, but, you know, we were office managers, we were students, you know, we were just ordinary people doing something extraordinary. I made the decision to retire in 2011, a really difficult decision. I played in 2 World Cup finals, hadn't won a World Cup. But I thought the next World Cup in 2014, I was 35 then, and it was a huge commitment, but I wanted to retire while I was still on a high, when I was still the best number 8 in England and some would say the world. I wanted to retire when I was on a high as an individual. I didn't want to be deselected. I didn't want to get injured. And also the shirts were getting so much more fitted. I didn't want to... that was the real reason it was time to go. And then after that, you know, it's really, joking aside, retirement is a very tough thing to do. Or some of you will have different transitions in your life, moving from one thing to another. You may have been in one business and now you're going off to do something else. You kind of lose this identity. You know, what do? You have all this life set for you. You know exactly what your goals are. And then you have to set your own goals. And it was a really difficult time for me. And, you know, I talked to you about, you know, trekking up this mountain. I'd got to the top of this mountain. I thought I've retired. I've got to crash all the way to the bottom. No way. I woke up one morning and realised I can stay at the top of the mountain range. That's absolutely fine. I've built this life. I've built this profile. I can just hop over to another mountain. I've set myself different goals. So I set up my own business. I was in a very secure job. I had a salary, a monthly salary, amazing. I had a company car, sick pay, pension, all that kind of thing. And one day I thought, I don't want to be doing this anymore. I set up my own company called Inspiring Women, which is a speaker agency. I was going to lots of events, a bit like this one, but with mainly men in them, rugby events. And all these speakers, really good speakers, but they were all male. And now I know there's females that have got good stories to tell. I know there are, and I wanted to set up a platform for that. To provide that platform, but also to encourage fellow female athletes and former athletes that you have got a story to tell and you have got a value and people do want to listen to you. That's why I set up Inspiring Women and really proud of my business. I also do quite a lot of commentary work, media work. I've been commentating on the Six Nations. I'm patron of a charity, Tag Rugby Trust, and we've recently set up a project in Zimbabwe to develop female leaders and mentors who are working with young girls growing up in Zimbabwe as well, which is a fantastic charity. And just to put a heinous plug in, I'm writing my own book at the moment called Mud, Mall, Mascara. So you can play rugby and be muddy and like to put mascara on as well. There's more to the book than that. That's just the thing. And there's a little card in your goodie bags, and I'm crowdfunding for the cost of publishing at the moment. So if you'd like to hear more, if you'd like to read more, you can just look at that. But enjoy the rest of the lunch, enjoy the rest of the amazing speakers that are coming, and celebrate who we are, celebrate what people did 100 years ago. I think they had their own journey of blind summits as well. 100 years ago, we won the vote. I don't know if they would have known we'd had a female Prime Minister now. And I'm sure they didn't know that women would be playing rugby in World Cups. So. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. So we are joined by Catherine Spencer. Catherine, welcome. Thank you so much for speaking today. Your name's come up a lot. So many people have mentioned that everything that you said resonated with them. Now, assuming that we aren't filled with a room of rugby players, what do you think it was that you said that rang true with so many people in the room today?
I think, we're all here and we're all ambitious women, and yeah, I went on to play rugby for England, but really all I did was just go step by step by step, little steps, just looking up, just a little step, and I think it's just making something quite cool, playing rugby for your country.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seemingly quite ordinary and quite normal and quite accessible to everyone, I think.
Absolutely. And so having listened to everyone today, do you think that International Women's Day still has a reason for being? Do you think it's still relevant?
I do, actually, and I think it's something that's sort of grown and developed and evolved over the years and probably means something different to many different countries around the world. But I think actually for young girls growing up and for women like us, I think it's really important to hear stories about what women are doing and hearing positive stories, actually. And we talk about this term role model, whether we like it or not. Actually, we gain confidence through the experience of what other women have done.
Absolutely.
And we see someone's done something that, I can do that as well.
So you think role models still play a part in empowering young women?
Yeah, I really do. Yeah. I think it's really important.
Who was yours growing up?
I knew that question was coming. Actually, probably when I was growing up, I was sporty and I liked sport, and the main female athlete that was on our televisions was Sally Gunnell, who was an Olympic hurdler and won the Olympics, and I used to think she had really cool hair, and I was just like, so I thought she was kind of like my sporting heroine, if you like, when I was growing up. And now today, obviously, there's so many more female athletes on our televisions, but it's really important to have someone, I think, who inspires you. They might not be famous, they might be a family member or something like that, but really important.
And tell everyone who's watching, hopefully live, a little bit about your book.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for doing that. So I'm writing a book, Mud Mall Mascara. Mud Mall Mascara. Okay, got it. So you can play rugby and you can want to put your mascara on at the end of the day.
Understood. Yeah.
It's also a book about retiring and the challenges of retiring and trying to take on a new goal. It's also about not winning World Cups and the challenge of that, and a little bit of a light-hearted look as well at the struggles of love through my life.
Brilliant.
So
brilliant.
It's a little bit of everything.
So
and
relatable for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And retiring, I think, is quite a key thing for sports people, male or female. Have you found that women have supported you in your next career, being entrepreneurial and doing your next thing?
They have, but I have to absolutely say that lots of men have supported me as well.
Excellent,
and,
that's good to hear.
And actually, more people have wanted to help me than I realised. And to start with, setting up my own business, inspiring women, I found it hard to accept help because I thought maybe if other people were helping me, it meant that I wasn't strong and I couldn't do it myself. And I think that's a familiar story for a lot of people. And once you accept that actually people do want to help you, you can accept that, and then later on in life, you can help people yourself as well, and it's a nice cycle.
Absolutely. So a lesson in being humble in the reception of help, and then you're able to give it back. Thank you so much, everyone.
So much.
Brilliant. Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you.